Welcome to the Church of Obelisk. Today we're going to talk about how patch 735 affects Visage. So there are two direct changes to Visage. First is that Soul Assumption damage is now calculated before reductions. This is a pretty nice buff. So in case you don't know, Soul Assumption gets a charge whenever a hero or creep hero takes player damage near you, whether it's an enemy or an ally. And previously it would only count the actual damage after reductions, but now it calculates before reductions. So if there's a 400 damage nuke onto a hero with standard reductions, previously you would only get 3 charges, now you get 4. And of course with physical damage against heroes with high armor, the difference can be much bigger. This is a significant buff to Visage in side lanes, but also for mid Visage it's a nice buff to Soul Assumption. And it means that now in the vast majority of games you probably want to get a level of Soul Assumption at the latest at level 4. And the other change is that you get an extra target on the level 15 talent for Soul Assumption. You would very rarely get this talent in the past. It pretty much always go for the 2-second Grave Chill duration, which is very nice because then your Grave Chill duration and cooldown is the same, so you have 100% uptime. Now though, this is a really strong talent on the left side. So I think I would probably tend towards taking that talent more often than not, especially if you're playing offlane Visage. But if you like playing mid Visage especially, and you're like having a good game, you're doing a good amount of physical damage, then maybe the Grave Chill duration talent is still stronger. So these buffs are not massive, but they definitely help. But what's really changed Visage even more than these direct changes is the changes to 2 items in particular. The big new item is Bloodthorne. It always used to be a decent late game option on Visage, but now it's much more stronger, in particular because of this last change. Soulwind now also causes all attacks against the target to deal 60 bonus magic damage. Now, this is all attacks from your hero, from other heroes attacking the target, from your birds in particular. And since birds attack so fast, that is a lot of bonus damage. So with 2 birds attacking, that's 4 attacks per second. Add on top of that the 70% attack speed bonus from Q, and you get 6.8 attacks per second with just the birds. That's over 400 magic damage every second. Pretty much, if someone doesn't instantly dispel Bloodthorne or has BKB or something like that, they're gonna melt. And then the other item that is important for us is that Medallion of Courage has been removed, and Solar Crest has been reworked to be much stronger on most heroes. On Visage though, it's not really a very good Visage item anymore. It doesn't give mana regen, which sucks. It gives you like a bunch of HP and mana and the barrier and everything, which is great on most heroes. On Visage though, not that great. But most importantly, we can no longer cast Solar Crest on enemies. And we'd be using that quite a bit with the old Solar Crest for the minus armor and for the slow. So now I think it's still viable on Visage, I think, just because it's such an absurd item right now. But Visage is definitely one of the worst Solar Crest builders. And I think you should instead focus on other items. Then we have changes to Phylactery, and Phylactery has been nerfed a little bit. It's now slightly more expensive and no longer gives the mana regen. So whereas previously Phylactery used to be an optional item that gives you a lot of early game strength in exchange for not having an upgrade path, now you do have an upgrade path, and that is the new item called Candor, which is not bad on Visage. So you get a decent amount of damage plus the old stats from Phylactery, and you get a crit. So it's a right-click item that also works like gives you some spell damage, which is fine for Visage. And if Bloodthorne didn't exist, I would be excited about this item, but Bloodthorne does exist, and it's just like a much stronger option for like an expensive damage item. So I don't really see myself buying Candor or Phylactery much on Visage this patch. For the other new item, it's kind of a similar story. Like it's nice in a vacuum, but Bloodthorne is just so much better. Pipe is a bit more expensive, which sucks, but you get a lot of health regen in compensation. And with how strong magic damage in general is in this patch, I think we see a slight uptick in pipe purchases. Scythe, a relevant late game option on Visage, gets a little bit cheaper, but also quite a bit worse. We're losing 10 strength, 10 agi, and 5 int. This is definitely a nerf, but Scythe is still just sort of the quintessential late game item on lots of heroes, and Visage no exception. Shivas has been changed and now has a Veil of Discord. And Veil was never really a popular Visage item, but it was sort of an okay choice. Maybe an offline Visage, maybe if you're playing like a support Visage. But the problem is it never had a real upgrade path, and now it does. And she was not like the ideal Visage item, but it's very strong right now. And if you're playing more towards the magic damage, so this means you're in the offlane or you're a support Visage and you put some early points into Solar Assumption, then an early Veil into later Shivas, I think can be quite strong. But I think most of the time you probably still want to lean more into the physical damage side. So what does this mean for item builds on Visage? You're probably going to get some stat items to start out with, something like 2 circlets, 3 branches, and a tango is a good option. You can also like replace a circlet and a branch with a stick, especially in the side lanes. And you probably want to make your way towards a wand, 1 or 2 bracers. You can also consider Blightstone. It's essentially a dead-end item for us now because it no longer builds in the Solar Crest. But it's still a decent standalone item. So our Phylactery and Solar Crest builds are no longer as strong. But Drum is still a very powerful item. And builds into Boots of Bearing, obviously. So if you want to go for Drum, then you also go for Tranquil Boots. If you decide against the Drum, you probably want to get Treads as your boots of choice. But long term, our goal is usually to get Bloodthorne and Aghanims. The order in which to get this and which items to buy before hasn't really been worked out, but that's sort of our North Star. We want Bloodthorne and Aghanims. That's going to make us very powerful and give us a lot of kill potential and pick-up potential. There's a lot of possibilities here. So we can do something like get the Orchid first, and then we get Aghanims, and then we round out the Bloodthorne, or we just get the Bloodthorne right away, and then Aghanims afterwards. Or if we want to emphasize our mid-game strength a bit more, we can get something like the Drum that I talked about. We can even get Vlad's, maybe. That's a great item for the mid-game as well. And also, especially if you're off-lane, Pipe is, of course, a very strong option. So we could get something like this. We'd probably have Brown Boots at this point. And at this point, probably our Drum charges will go low. So we upgrade to Boots of Bearing, and then we get like an Aghanims, and then Bloodthorne is like our last core item. That would be like an off-lane kind of path. In the mid lane, you can maybe straight line for Bloodthorne and Aghanims a bit more. After Bloodthorne, Aghanims, you can go for a Scythe. Even though it's been nerfed a little bit, it's still very strong. That's probably going to be the number 1 choice here. You can also go for like BKB. If you don't have it yet, Shard is also, of course, a strong option. But most of the time, it's probably going to be the Scythe for the extra kill threat between Scythe and Bloodthorne. Because, you know, fun fact, they can't dispel Bloodthorne if they're also hexed up. Unless an ally has a strong dispel. And after that, maybe something like an AC. You can buy BKB, Shiva, so you can also go for that now. There's a lot of options. Alright, so those are my thoughts on Visage in 735. If you want to see what I think about Chen and Lone Druid, click on the videos on the screen, and Obelisk willing, I will see you there.